Hard work has become one of the few things nobody questions anymore. Tell someone you're working 12-hour days, skipping weekends, answering emails at midnight, and they'll probably admire you for it. We celebrate exhaustion as if it's proof that we're moving forward. But look closer. The people running the fastest often aren't getting anywhere different. They're simply covering more ground on the same treadmill. That's the uncomfortable part. If hard work was enough, the busiest people would own the world. Instead, many of them own stress, debt, and a calendar they no longer control. The Stoics never believed effort was the goal. Effort without direction is just expensive motion. And if you're building someone else's future while neglecting your own, hard work becomes the very thing keeping you trapped. From the day we're old enough to understand praise, we're taught that effort is everything. Finish your homework, stay late, work harder than everyone else. Somewhere along the way, effort stopped being a tool and became an identity. The problem is that the real world doesn't reward effort nearly as much as it rewards judgment. Two people can wake up at 6, work 10 hours, and go home exhausted. One is building a business that grows while they sleep. The other is counting the days until payday. The hours look identical. The outcome couldn't be more different. That's because markets don't measure sweat. They measure value, ownership, and leverage. The system was never designed to pay you for how tired you are. It pays you for what your work continues to produce after you've stopped working. That's a difficult truth to accept, because it means effort alone isn't enough. It never was. Marcus Aurelius spent his life surrounded by power, yet he rarely spoke about chasing more of it. He spoke about ruling the only thing that could never be taken from him, his own mind. That's where most people lose the plot today. They believe freedom comes from earning a bigger paycheck, but they ignore everything quietly laying claim to that paycheck before it even arrives. A larger house demands a larger mortgage. A nicer car demands larger payments, more subscriptions, more upgrades, more lifestyle. Before long, your income isn't buying freedom anymore. It's feeding obligations. The harder you work, the more expensive your cage becomes. Picture a dog on a leash. Give it a longer leash and it feels free, but the collar is still there. That's how modern ambition works for many people. They mistake a little more comfort for independence, while remaining tied to the same system. Stoicism doesn't ask whether you're working hard. It asks a far more uncomfortable question. Who benefits most from your hard work? You or the life you've accidentally built around it? Money has never been the hardest thing to earn. Keeping control after you earn it is. That's why some people double their income and somehow end up feeling just as trapped as before. Every raise becomes permission to spend a little more, upgrade a little more, borrow a little more. Desire quietly expands to match whatever you make. The Stoics saw this long before credit cards and online shopping existed. They knew a person ruled by appetite could never truly become wealthy, because enough is a moving target. Comfort is strange like that. It arrives wearing the mask of success, then slowly becomes another monthly expense. The person who controls desire can build wealth on an ordinary income. The person who can't control desire will struggle on an extraordinary one. Before you learn how to make more money, learn how to stop needing more than you actually do. Imagine two people planting trees. One spends every morning picking fruit from the same tree and selling it before sunset. If they stop working, the income disappears immediately. The other spends those mornings planting new trees. For months, it looks like they're falling behind. Less fruit, less money, less visible progress. But a few years later, one person owns an orchard while the other is still waking up before dawn just to start again. That's the difference between selling effort and building assets. An asset doesn't have to be a company or millions in investments. It can be a skill that's difficult to replace, a body of work, a reputation, a business, something that continues creating value after today's work is finished. Building those things is frustrating because the reward arrives late. That's the price. The crowd celebrates quick results. Real wealth usually compounds in silence. Walk into any cafe and you'll see it. Someone reaches for their phone before the coffee even touches the table. An email interrupts breakfast. A notification interrupts a conversation. A headline interrupts a thought. Most people think distraction costs a few minutes. It costs something much bigger. It teaches the mind that anything deserves access to your attention. And attention is where every decision begins. If someone else controls what you think about all day, they quietly influence what you'll become tomorrow. Marcus Aurelius constantly returned his mind to what mattered because he understood that scattered attention creates a scattered life. Protecting your focus isn't about productivity hacks. It's about ownership. Every unnecessary distraction is a small piece of your life handed to someone else. The people who build remarkable lives don't necessarily have more hours. They simply waste fewer of the ones they already have. This is where most people misunderstand the Stoics. They think Stoicism is about becoming tougher, working harder, or enduring more pain than everyone else. It isn't. It's about refusing to become owned by the things you pursue. Money is useful, but it should never dictate your choices. Success is valuable, but it should never become your identity. Work matters, but it should never consume the person doing it. The Fifth Estate isn't built on the idea of escaping work. It's built on choosing work that expands your freedom instead of shrinking it. Stop asking, "How can I work harder?" Start asking, "What am I building that makes tomorrow easier than today?" That single question separates people who spend their lives maintaining a system from those who slowly build one of their own. Most people will keep believing the answer is simply to work harder. They'll wear exhaustion like a medal, confuse being busy with making progress, and trade another year for another paycheck that disappears before the month ends. There's nothing wrong with hard work. The danger is never asking who it ultimately serves. The Stoics weren't against effort. They were against living unconsciously. They understood that freedom begins the moment you stop reacting and start choosing with intention. That's the difference between surviving the system and seeing it for what it is. One keeps you occupied, the other sets you free. And that's exactly what the Fifth Estate is here to uncover.